Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. It was my first visit to Maui, Hawaii in the summer of 1995. I was on vacation with my wife. We were carefree, yet still cautious as we drove the 39-plus cliffside curves on our way to Hana. We were on our way to visit the Seven Sacred Pools State Park. This is where you could walk in the rainforest and dip your toes or swim in the cool rainwater cascading down from the mountains in Hawaii. My body was hot while enjoying the hot Maui summer. I was wearing heavy hiking type boots, heavy cargo type shorts, a Ride for the Wild 1994 charity biking t-shirt, and a heavy fanny pack loaded with sunscreen, bug spray, and my camera, car keys, wallet, and money. I remember this event and its details so much that if I think about it and relax, I can go back to this event and relive it. I have several times. Time slowed down as soon as my wife and I walked out of the car in the state park parking lot. There was one sign I saw: dangerous rainwaters make swimming or crossing in streams very deadly. The sign was written in marker, not printed up professionally. My wife and I walked along a green, jungle-like trail. The streams were very low, and you could cross them rather easily. I was surprised at how many older people there were walking around and jumping and swimming in some of the 7 sacred pools. I used extreme caution due to the handwritten sign. My wife and I were not there long, maybe 15 minutes, when I, all of a sudden, felt very nervous, out of it, and wanted to go. My wife had her shoes off and she was putting them back on after dipping her toes in the cool rainwater streams when I took a step. I felt time stop. I felt forward momentum and the sensation that I was moving. This is the point where I slipped on some algae-covered rocks in one of the drier streams and literally cartwheeled forward. I fell over the edge of one of the waterfalls at 7 sacred pools. Something happened. Time stopped, yet on either side of my head, I could see something like a movie strip playing from my infancy until where I was now. It seemed to stop at certain events, like the birth of my sister, the death of one of my younger friends, the huge blizzard of 1979, or other events comprised of my mother, father, and my wife. I also saw an older man. I assumed and felt that he was my grandfather. The film strip vision stopped right at the point where I saw myself tumbling over the waterfall, falling about 35 feet into the Pacific Ocean. This was the last stream that led and fell into the Pacific Ocean below. I felt my eyes close. My breathing stopped. I could not hear anything. The bright light surrounded me, and I felt immediately at peace, but still scared because I knew that I had died or was very near death. My eyes were closed, and yet they were burning. I felt a sensation of coldness and wetness and felt uncomfortableness. Slowly, the waters drained out of my ears, and I heard the thundering of the water falling down the waterfalls. I gave myself into the light and soon felt that I had blacked out or gone unconscious. I then slowly recall feeling my eyes burning. The lightness was getting darker and darker. I felt my heartbeat slowing down. Thump, 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 stopping. All of a sudden, I felt comforted and saw, briefly, an older man, about 50 years old, wearing farmer-type overalls and a white shirt. He was smiling at me and had his hands out to reach or grab for me. I tried to grab him, and then, all of a sudden, he disappeared. A dark tunnel was forming somehow. I could see it above my head. I thrust my arms up, barely moving, and then I moved closer and closer to the dark, swirling light or darkness that seemed to pull me towards it. My hands broke the water's surface at the bottom of the waterfall. I seemed to fly out of the water. I grabbed onto some sort of black, cold, and wet rocks. I could not hear, but I looked into the water that I'd just come out of and saw this man waving goodbye to me, feeling him disappear. I grasped and clutched onto the slippery waterfall rocks, grabbing on and grasping for breath. I felt being pulled back hard and felt a great rage or anger trying to pull me down back into the waters below. A huge ocean wave roared over my head. I felt like I was blacking out again, but I held on to those black, slippery rocks so hard with all of my might and strength. I felt someone pushing me closer and closer to the inside, underneath the waterfall above me. I could not hear. I felt peaceful. I clutched onto the rocks and looked around slowly. All around me were sharp, volcanic-looking, black oceanic rocks, and wave after wave would slam hard against me. I felt like letting go and just surrendering, but I immediately thought of only one person, my wife. I could not die. Was I dead? Where was I? Shock must have set in here, but for how long, I do not know. I felt I was here alone, unable to hear but seeing the pouring of heavy waterfall waters smashing into part of me and ocean waves hitting me as I clutched onto these wet rocks. I faced the inside of the waterfall and looked at my hands. Little black water ants crawled onto them and seemingly felt like they were holding or trying to help me hold on to this wet rock. I felt I was slipping, and slowly I felt a presence nearby. I turned around and saw the older man pointing upwards to the one side of the waterfall. What? He was mouthing something. I could not hear it. I wanted to hear from him. Who was he? He kept pointing upwards on one side of the waterfalls, and I then felt something swim or brush along my entire leg. It immediately brought me some fear. For all this time, I felt calm and at peace. The fish, shark, or whatever had just swum by me. Then to my left, there moving towards me was a person. It was my wife, climbing down the side of the waterfall that the man had just pointed out to me. She got down to the bottom and swam across the bottom of this waterfall, maybe 30 feet across, with the ocean waters seemingly stopping for her to swim to me. Water was pouring out of my ears. She screamed, "Are you all right? What happened?" And she tried to get me off the rocks and swim with her. I could not swim, and I had not ever learned to swim until maybe 10 years later after this event. I told her I loved her, and she said she loved me too. I am afraid of pulling her down into the deep, dark waters below me. She was so brave and told me to hold on to her. I told her a fish or a shark had swum across my leg, and she swam back to the shore side so fast, like in 5 swim strokes. I felt my heart slowing. I felt coldness coming over me. I held onto the rocks, and my grip felt weaker as the ocean waters began coming back over my head. 3 in a row, and then they stopped. I felt like I was falling backwards, and someone was there to catch me. I turned around slowly and felt comfortable. I saw pink, green, and blue, and very vivid colors in the distance, maybe 200 feet away or more from me. I could not figure out what they were or what they meant, but the colors comforted me, and I held onto the rocks harder. The ants tried to keep my fingers and hands warm by running and moving across them, back and forth to warm my hands. There were hundreds of black ants. I heard, "Dude, bro, what are you doing here?" Huh? I turned around slightly to see 3 surfers on their bright surfboards of fluorescent pink, green, and ocean blue colored surfboards. I could not speak. One surfer floated into the waterfall pool with me. He tried to grab me. I heard voices, many voices. As he got off his surfboard, he wrapped his body around me, protecting me. "I won't let you die, friend," I remember him saying. He held onto me so tightly. "Can you get to my surfboard?" I could not move, but I felt comforted by his presence and strength and felt his warm body protecting me. "Can you move?" I think I heard him say. I think I was in deep shock. I had fallen over a waterfall and nearly into huge rocks below the waterfall. But what had happened was that, as I fell into the ocean, the exposed rocks below the waterfall were covered by ocean waves, rising to cover them, as I fell from the waterfall into the Pacific Ocean waters. I felt like crying, and I think I did. I tried to speak. Words did not come. I leaned back, knowing that this surfer had saved my life and he was not going to let me die here. I heard the other surfers say, "Oh my God, he fell off the waterfall cliff up there and landed down here. How did he survive the fall into the rocks?" I had 1 or 2 scratches, but otherwise no injuries. The surfer had to pry my hands off the black waterfall rocks. The ants moved quickly away. He used his strength and pulled me off the rocks and into his chest, holding on to me, telling me I was in his arms and he would save my life today. I was put on a surfboard. I fell into unconsciousness on and off. I felt the heat of the sun drying my clothes. I was saved that day by the brave surfer, a surfer who saw me there somehow, all alone, and saved my life. I got into an ambulance. Someone grabbed my car keys, my wife, I think. Off I went, fast yet slowly, into the emergency room of the medical center. I blacked in and out of consciousness. My breathing became fast and I hyperventilated. The ambulance technician kept saying a prayer and, "OMG, bro, you survived 7 sacred pools. Nobody ever survives that fall and comes back alive," he kept saying. "Right on." It seemed like time had stopped. I awoke in the small emergency room. I had calmed my breathing so much that the emergency room doctor thought I was dying. Then I felt my body slowly awaken, and the next thing I knew, I was leaving the emergency room. My wife had made peanut butter and jelly sourdough sandwiches to eat on the long drive home from Hannah. I had no real injuries. I think I was in shock for the next few days. All I can remember was people coming up to me and asking me to touch their babies' foreheads or hold their children's hands or touch them. Most spoke in native Hawaiian. It seemed I was the guy who survived falling into the 7 sacred pools. These pools had killed and taken so many Maui and Hawaiian men, women, and children over the years, and nobody survived but me. They wanted to meet and see me. I don't remember much after this event, except returning home and feeling superhuman, as if I could take a bullet or was supercharged and could do anything. I had no fear, and life was great. A few weeks later, I fell into a deep pit of depression. Why did I survive the fall when so many others died? Why? I felt guilt and high stress. I felt like, why did I survive? And how did I live? For years, my persona changed from happy-go-lucky to a darker, more quiet and reserved person, sitting back watching life go by me, rather than embracing it and helping others. I feel rage and anger somehow all the time now, and also guilt and sadness and depression. I feel it will go away once I die. My 20th anniversary of this accident is coming up, and every year I still feel afraid of the water, oceans, and swimming. But I learned how to swim, and I learned that my voyage or journey gave me new insights into the world, and that I had new powers, such as knowing who was going to die soon or next, or other psychic visions. I saw the towers on fire in 1998 in vivid dreams and images. The twin towers of the World Trade Center fell on September 11, 2001. I can read people and know in their hearts if they are black and evil or if they are kind and soulful. I have many other gifts that I have not shared with anyone, not even my wife. I feel a man should not know when he is about to die. It is God's choice and decision, not mine, to tell people their lives are about to end, or when a woman is pregnant, even if they do not know yet. Yes, I've told a few women, and their looks of terror and panic were great. I don't like to know things, but who knows how long I'll be here? How long am I going to live? This near-death experience was not a blessing, but a curse. I feel its power every day of my life, and when I hear of others seeing God in the white light tunnel, I call them out. No, I know who has gone and who has not gone into the near-death life. I have met 2 people since who had died but come back, and I knew that they had died and come back, even before they ever confided in me. Who or what am I now? What is my role in life? What do I do now? The medical center was so shocked and scared that I survived. I now recall people peeking in at me during the battery of tests. There was no water in my lungs. The eye stinging were the salt ocean waters. The fish brushing up against my back leg has left its mark, still to this day, as I have raised salty pimples that appear there all the time. Emergency doctors say it was a small shark. I had no other business or cuts, just 2 small abrasions. It was in the Maui news, TV, and newspapers. But this was before the internet. My wife said people were videotaping my rescue. I never saw any of that. I went back to Maui in the summer of 2004 and went back to Hana, the 7 sacred pools, now furnished with printed official warning signs and boards everywhere saying, "If you swim or come here, you could drown or die." I tossed a flowered lei into the stream on the edge of the water. For this short time, I swear I felt complete peace and calmness come over me. Then I was back on vacation and on with my life. Although I feel this event destroyed my life, it gave me new insights and visions. And now, what do I do with this knowledge? The end.